Hi there, this is Andrew from Hot Tub Focus, and today's video is about, are hot tub chemicals bad for you? Can they cause you any serious health issues? And I've done I've done a lot of reading about this, a lot of research, and this video links to a blog post which you can click on the link below to get a lot more detail and see the references and the research that I've actually had a look at to investigate this and to find out. So we all know that bromine and chlorine are pretty hardcore chemicals. They're part of the halogen family. I'm not a chemist at all. I don't know much about this at all. But they're part of the halogen family, which is a sort of a very volatile gas. And they are highly toxic. You know, they're the skull and crossbones type thing. However, they've both been used in swimming pools and they've both been used in hot tubs, and chlorine has been used in drinking water for decades. So they're sort of well-known quantities to a certain extent, he said very carefully. You'll be very familiar with the chlorine smell. It's got a number of side effects as bromine has as well, but they're very closely related. So actually they do a very similar thing. So in terms of your health, in terms of getting in a hot tub with full of chlorine or bromine, you're going to smell it. It's possibly going to make your eyes itchy and red. That's very common. It can cause rash and irritation to your skin, dryness to your skin, dryness to your hair. And also, it can not help with it if you've got a respiratory problem already. It can actually not help with your breathing. It's not great for your lungs. When you breathe it in, essentially it burns your lungs, I think, to a certain extent. The issue is with hot tubs is, well, hot tubs are a haven for bacteria and germs. Basically, they're warm, they're wet, and they haven't got much water in them. The bather load is very high, so the amount of water compared with the number of people with dirty bodies that get in it is very, very low. In a swimming pool, it's a lot bigger, for example. So in a hot tub, you do need some really powerful sanitization, else the bacteria will essentially take over. And the sad thing is that despite there being saltwater sanitation systems, ozonators, mineral sanitization systems and all sorts of things like that are on the face of it a lot more environmentally friendly and a lot more friendly and better for our bodies. Those things they work okay, but they really need backing up with chlorine at some point to make absolutely sure that your hot tub is totally clean. And there's a lot of stuff on manufacturers' websites saying that, you know, this is saltwater sanitization, for example, is the no chlorine solution. But the chances are, unless you are very, very careful, you are going to have to use chlorine at some point, at the very least when you first put the water in, chlorinate it to make sure that it's clean so that you've got a good start. So there we go. It's difficult to get away at the moment from using some chlorine. Now, there are ways to minimize using chlorine, and in the video, in the blog post below, I've listed 6 or 8 different really good ideas for actually minimizing the use of chlorine, so you can reduce the risk of with chlorine. And I've also looked very, very carefully at the whole issue about the possible links between chlorine and cancer, and also between bromine and cancer. And I haven't come to any conclusion on that, and I don't think there is any conclusion on that, depending on where you read. Some resources are saying that there is not a link, certainly between chlorine and cancer. Others are saying that if you swallow it in huge quantities, then it can cause bladder cancer. I don't know. The two they're interlinked in a conversation. I personally don't feel comfortable with that. You know, they are powerful chemicals, and then our bodies aren't designed for exposure to them on the levels that we are exposing them to in a hot tub. And I think your pores are open in a hot tub. You're breathing in the fumes all the time, the vapors in all the time. I don't have an answer as to whether chlorine or bromine causes cancer. I don't think anybody actually really knows. But I think it's a really good idea to minimize the amount of chlorine and bromine that you use in your hot tub ASAP. whilst of course keeping it clean and keeping it sanitary. Now, there's no point in not using enough chlorine or bromine and then allowing bacteria to form, and the Legionella, for example, is really horrible if you get it. It can cause all sorts of problems as well. That's cutting a nose off to spite your face. You do need to use chlorine, but you need to use a minimum amount, I think, in my opinion, and keep your hot tub as clean as possible, so that chlorine isn't, it's not the main thing that's in there cleaning it. Well, I hope that's given you food for thought and answered some of your questions. As I say, there's a big detailed blog post on this linked below. So go on there to find out more about the actual research that I looked into, find out more about the cancer links, find out about how to actually, some practical things on how to minimize the amount of chlorine that you're using in your hot tub, because I think that really is the way moving forward. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye-bye.